Gilmour is an English singer, songwriter and guitarist who is best known for being the guitarist for Pink Floyd. He joined Pink Floyd in 1967, shortly before Syd Barrett left, and took over the leadership of the band when Roger Waters left in 1985. However, alongside the Pink Floyd career, he's also released some solo albums. His first was in 1978 and his fifth was in 2024. Hi, my name's Dan. So this is a review of David Gilmour's recent album, and it's a new release review. Most of the reviews on this channel are actually of a list, which I have titled the 3,000 Best Albums Ever. Is the 3,000 Greatest Albums of All Time, according to a list at Acclaimed Music, where they've done an amalgamated list from critic lists, much in the same way that Metacritic works. And I have taken it as my challenge to review all of them. So I've started at number 3,000 and I'm working my way upwards. Currently, I'm roughly at about 850 through, which means I'm what, 2,215? No, 2,150. Oh, I can't do the maths. Anyway, sometimes I step off that, and one of the reasons that I step off the list is to review newly released albums like this one. So this was released on the 6th of September, so I'm a little bit behind, about 6 weeks or so, maybe a bit less than that behind its release. Sometimes I manage to review albums pretty much on the day of release, and I'm quite proud of myself when I do that. This is not one of those cases, so maybe I shouldn't be proud of myself. So, David Gilmour has said that he thinks this is his best work since The Dark Side of the Moon. And we're going to dig in and see if I agree. So, it's definitely rock of a kind of stadium kind. It's generally mid-paced. If you're familiar with post-Roger Waters Pink Floyd stuff at all, this will not sound very different to you in that it's got that kind of Pink Floyd feel, sort of later Pink Floyd feel, which is big, huge productions, expansive musical sound to it, and instrumental sections with solos and then singing. Obviously, that's the thing that we get. So let's just pick out a few of the other musicians who are involved here. So Richard Wright, who was a member of Pink Floyd, has contributed on one track. Now, Richard Wright has died, unfortunately, but he recorded the part that was used for this track before he died. Good thing that they didn't try and get it after he died. But it was something that was kind of sitting around in the archives, as it were, and David Gilmour pulled it out and wrote a song around it and turn it into something. And that's the title track, Lookin' Strange. Brian Eno appears playing keyboards on a couple of tracks. A couple of David Gilmour's daughters appear singing backing vocals, and one of them, Romany, sings lead on one of the tracks later on in the album, very nicely too. There's a couple of choirs and an orchestra, and obvious things like bass and drums and other things like that. So another thing that he said is that he's exploring new musical directions in this, and I don't think it's very different from latter-day Pink Floyd. And don't get me wrong, it's a kind of music that I like. I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, but I didn't find it particularly surprising. If there is anything that I would say is a bit of a departure from before, I'd say there's some folky elements in here and a bit of use of folk instruments or folk sounds and those kind of feels. But in the main, it's this stadium Pink Floyd sound. There's some nice playing, especially David Gilmour's guitar work. He has a great sound. He's got. I feel like his playing is quite distinctive, and I've always enjoyed it. I think it's more about feel than about flash. So it's not the guitar hero kind of fast technical stuff. It's kind of soaring melodic lines, basically. His voice is good, and in fact, I'll go out on a limb and say that this may be the best of his voice that I've heard. So I think that the singing is really strong on this album. by his standards. Again, he's not a very technical singer, but he's quite a solid singer and also fairly distinctive. I guess when you know his voice, you kind of go, you hear it and you think, yeah, that's David Gilmour. Okay. The lyrics are by Polly, his wife, and they're okay, but they don't feel like much new. And I think if there's a disappointment here, really, it's in the lyrics for me. Whilst I was writing these notes, I was listening to the Piper's Call, which I think is about advertising. A lot of it is kind of picture language and stuff put together, but it doesn't have the depth that a lot of the Pink Floyd lyrics had, the gravitas to it that Pink Floyd often brought to their albums. So overall, I enjoyed it in a kind of comfortable way. I enjoyed it musically more than lyrically. It's not that I disliked it lyrically, but it's always going to be in comparison with Pink Floyd, I'm afraid. Sorry, David. I doubt whether David Gilmour will see this review. So I didn't go wow at this album, but I did enjoy it because I am a fan of this kind of music. So it's good. It's all right. I kind of wish it had a little bit more to it. So that's what I think. I'd love to know what you think. So please do share by leaving me a comment in the comments down there somewhere. There's a box and you can type stuff. Or if you're on your phone, you can use your thumbs. And that's it from me for now.
Take these binds everlasting. Can't undo that voodoo that you do. And the knots that we fasten will not work themselves.